Metro District abuse in Colorado, taxation without representation. This next series of segments is going to talk about the myths, many of the myths that have been generated about metro districts. One of the first myths is that there is representation, that the residents are not being taxed without having representation on what those taxes will be and how the bond debt and what the amount of the bond debt will be. That's a myth. That is a myth. In fact, the residents are being taxed and are not being represented. But let's look at the statement. How does the industry say that taxation is being represented? Here's an excerpt. Here's a statement from the industry lobbyist in a guest opinion piece that they wrote for the Denver Gazette, published January 10th of this year, 2022. They say, let's address the issue of taxation without representation. They have to concede that while it's true homeowners generally, you can strike generally and say always, don't vote on the debt within the district, they say that's true of any debt that was already voted on before an owner purchased a property. They go on to say, for example, if somebody moves into the Denver area from another city, they're going to pay local taxes even though they didn't vote for them, because the prior residents voted on those taxes, which carry over to the next year. So let's think about that a minute. If you're not already laughing, consider this. They're saying that the residents who are here before you moved in voted on these things, and since those residents have the same interests as you, and those decisions are then binding on you when you move into the community, that's no different than what's happening in a metro district. The problem with that analysis, of course, is that the people who are voting on your debt and who are voting to eliminate your right to vote on future debt and taxes are these people. They're not residents. They never will be residents. They'll never pay these taxes. They'll never be burdened with the tax authority that they impose. These people are, in fact, individuals who have a 180-degree conflict of interest with the residents. They aren't paying taxes. They're being paid from your taxes. They're getting money. They're not paying money. Their interests are the complete opposite of your interests. And just to be clear about it, their accountants have an obligation when they do a tax audit to disclose they have a conflict of interest. Here is a standard phrase that politely states that the board of directors are employees or owners or otherwise associated with the developer, and may, you can strike that and say, do have conflicts of interest in dealing with the district. Of course they do, because they're making decisions on the amount of money you will pay as taxes, and the money is being paid to them. The people voting on the taxes are the ones receiving the money. They're not paying for it. So, back to the industry's lobbyists and their assertion that it's just like you moving in to a community where prior residents have voted for taxes. The problem is those prior people voting on the taxes aren't residents. They're developers. And they'll never live there, and they will never sit in the same seat, occupy the same shoes, and open the same checkbook that you open every day to pay their income slash profits with your taxes. And these are the same people who took away your right to vote through this Tabor election and eliminated your ability to have any oversight or approval authority on taxes issued to pay bond debt or to issue that bond debt. So they go on to say, again, part of the myth, that you're also represented by the cities and counties because they approve the district plan, the district service plan. And because the city and the counties are elected by people, they were in essence representing you when the service plan was approved and when the debt and authority for eliminating your right to vote was executed. Again, that's a myth. That's simply not true. These people are the ones who voted at the Tabor election to impose this debt and take away your right to approve the debt. Not the city, not the county, the developers. And in fact, in virtually every case, the city and county never see this document, this ballot issue. They certainly don't approve it because they don't have authority to approve it. The city doesn't have authority to impose taxes on you. The city doesn't have authority to take away, to eliminate your right to vote on taxes and bond debt. These people, the developer, his employees and relatives, did that, and they gave themselves this power, and they gave themselves these rights, not the city, not the county. Well, then, their third subsection to the myth is, well, if it's not just like residents moving in behind residents, and if the city and the counties aren't your representative, then the boards of the metro districts represent you. They are your representative government. These people represent you, even though they elected themselves and have a conflict of interest and voted to eliminate your right to vote. So, in fact, there is taxation without representation. You don't have any representation when those folks vote to issue bond debt, vote to increase your taxes, vote to impose a tax obligation authorization up to, in my case, $4.9 billion. The taxation without representation isn't something that advocates for Metro District reform made up. You've heard it before, right? Britain imposed taxes on the colonists. The colonists had no say, were not represented in those taxing decisions, how much and what it was going to be spent for. The money went to Britain, or if it remained in the colonies, the decisions about how that money would be spent and how much money you would be taxed were made by people in Britain, and the colonists had no vote, had no say for, and did not elect those people. Same thing. This is literally 200 years later. Taxation without representation. Thank you.